Should be live. Here we go. Let's play along. Good evening, folks.
Okay, what do you do with that? What is the ruling on that? How funny.
I've wondered whether you might be having some second thoughts about the mission. Dave, may I ask you a personal question?
Say it to par.
Rumors about something being dug up. I never gave these stories much credence.
Oh, I totally gripped like that, dude. I was sitting there looking at this.
Open the pod bay doors, Al. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't. What are you talking about? This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Just almost ace that. Can't see that with that back there.
Dave, you mind if I ask you a personal question? Dave, you mind if I ask you a personal
Oh.
Dave,
Wait a second, what was that again?
Holy Frio in here.
Rio.
I've wondered whether you might be having some second thoughts about the mission.
Come on now. Oh, man.
Rumors about something being dug up.
Start giving advice to John again.
I never gave these stories much
Make that bet. What do you think? Advice for John
For John,
right now?
stop thinking. It only hurts the team.
Oh.
All right. Sunday, I saw the craziest shot with this dude. It was, what's his name?
The Fling Show. The Fling Show. Y'all wanna know about the mystery of flight? You wanna hear about the scene done right? So kill your TV and just come outside. We're gonna take you on a beautiful ride. The Fling Show. The Fling Show. The Fling Show. The Fling Show. The Fling Show.
Well, welcome to the Fling Show, folks. My name is Chris McClung. I'll be bringing on my wonderful co-host, Mr. David Hemelian, in just a moment. But as you can see behind me, we need to bring out our wonderful sponsors, Team Lone Star Disc. Team Lone Star Disc is the only disc made and manufactured in, yes, you know it, the great state of Texas. And we have been with Lone Star Disc since day one. They have been with the Fling Show since day one. We really appreciate everything they do. And as you can see, when we go out and shoot these videos, we're throwing Lone Star Disc. And Hemi almost hit a couple aces. Just amazing to see. But this week, a lot of big things have been happening in the PDGA. A lot of big happenings and the big movings and shakings going on. And here to bring you all that up-to-date news is my wonderful co-host. And thank God he is here today to bring it to you. Because Hemi, you scared me to death the other day. How you doing?
I'm good. Good. Special shout out to all my caregivers yesterday for hauling my hot butt from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill, which I could not make after 20 holes of golf or however many we threw. But yeah, I just want to reflect on that for a second. This is the second time I've gone down in a heap on a disc golf course. One time I was playing with the herd golf over at Stonebridge several years ago, and same thing. So where I just went out, the heat took over, and I just had, I saw that pine tree over there, and I'm like, okay, that's where I'm going right now. Chris will find me eventually. He couldn't see me. I was out of view. So, but eventually there was a nice, turns out couple that was out there to frolic.
True that, yes.
That was an interesting story. That was about to tee off on the ball golf course. And he gave me a ride up to the clubhouse, and then everybody got me cooled off, and then I got a little education on how to cool down, which I want to share with everybody because you might need it. Take your ice packs, put them under your armpits, or the ice pack on the groin, wherever the biggest vein or artery would be. And for some reason, Max said the neck's not advised, but everything I looked up showed applying, cool to the neck. I'm sure it's not going to hurt you, but anyway, that's what happened. I was fine. It was just a little heat exhaustion, but just so you know, the warning signs. It's 110 degrees in Texas. That's the first warning sign. Don't play 20 holes of golf in 110 degrees. Let's see. No, the actual serious warning sign was my heart rate and my lungs. I could feel my lungs trying to take in more air. And so I that's why I laid down. Actually, I wanted to go into kind of a meditation and a breathing, because I knew somebody would come and help. And so I just wanted to go breathe. Basically, I felt my lungs struggling. It was an odd sort of feeling, I guess that's where I started hyperventilating. But I really do think that my breath work that I do every day, morning and night, helped me. People forget the power of breathing, and ice and getting out of the heat is the main thing. Or like at the Texas Jam back in the 80s, when I used to go to that, buckets of ice. I don't know if you remember those. They just throw people in a bucket back then.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that breathing can get you a whole lot that you can't even imagine what the breath work can do for you. Not just, I do think, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I think that people breathe shallow in a panic, sort of. That's kind of how we are nowadays. We don't take full breaths. So anyway, long story short, I do think the breathing helped, because I felt by the time my golf cart arrived for my little trip up the hill, I felt like I was kind of already over the hump. At least I got out of that panic state. I felt that panic coming on, those are the ones where you have to have the ambulance instead of a golf cart,
Well, I had that panic come over me as well, because I kind of putted out and saw you walking across the fairway to take, I thought, the short way around that hill, because it was definitely daunting at the end of that round. We were both kind of struggling, but when I saw you bend over, I just kind of assumed that maybe it was your knees or your back, because I know when I feel dehydration, those are two of the areas, especially my back, that I'll feel it in the most. And to get off on a little bit of tangent, I think a couple of other things that'll help everybody out there. While on hole one, I had some gentlemen kind of giggle at the fact that I had an umbrella and were asking me if I knew something that somebody else didn't know.
I remember that.
Two things I know is A, it's about 10 to 15 degrees cooler underneath that umbrella, and B, I've had skin cancer, so it doesn't do me well to be out in it. So highly suggest that everybody who goes out there takes an umbrella. And the second part of that is at our age, which I didn't realize this, now that I realize it a lot more, is that we need the electrolytes, not just the water. After you get 50 years old, they definitely recommend that we drink more electrolytes than we do the water.
I'm on that too. I'm
Yeah.
on it. And actually yesterday, I don't mean to interrupt. Yesterday I should have dropped by the convenience store because they have a product called Electrolyte. Or you could go to any grocery store and find electrolytes, or that one that they gave me. And thank you, Spring Valley. Thank you, Heath, for handing over that little package. Those are really good. Throw in your water. That's an excellent point. And that's something that I hadn't really thought about, because the previous rounds that I played out in this heat, I've always taken 2 of those, and then made it a point to drink both of them during the round. But plus prehydrate. 100% is the most important thing, like just stay hydrated,
and find the shade. I know there's not a whole lot sometimes, especially yesterday with them having so many power holes that were played, even though we did play in the shade. You got to find that shade.
Yeah.
And that's what
happened. That's what happened, really, because we had that stretch where I threw my bayonet went into the burn pile over there, and looked around a little bit for that. But that whole stretch, those 3 holes right there, were all out in the sun on the whole. So your body heats up just like your car does. You got this exoskeletal thing that keeps heat in, and it goes in and it doesn't come out, and you just overheat. That's what I did.
And what concerned me the most is, when I walked up that hill, I was like, okay, he's walking down that side. I walked up to the clubhouse and I said, well, if I don't see him in 5, 4, and I started counting down, didn't see you come across, didn't see your head come up over that hill. That's when I started kind of, as fast as my body could go at that time, getting down that hill. And then once I saw you on the ground, my heart sank. And then that's when I yelled over to that nice young man over there to come grab that cart and get over there and let's get you in it. Obviously, it took us a few minutes to get you in that cart. But what concerned me about it most when you did sit up and you were sitting there is the amount of sweat that you were going through at the time. I mean, it was coming off your eyebrows. It was dripping off your nose like we've been playing a basketball game when we were kids, right? And the difference is that you and I were doing the exact same thing, and I was not sweating like that. I was sweating, but I wasn't sweating like that. And that just really got me so concerned. And once again, thank you to the guys at Spring Valley, getting the water, getting the ice, getting the electrolytes, understanding what was going on, and really showing some kind careness that day as well. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt. They were heat experts, especially Max, who worked on ships, military ships, and
for sure
massive heat. So thank you guys, appreciate it so much.
All right, well, let's break into what has become the talking point of the last 48 hours, and that is the new changes that are proposed to the PDGA committee this year for rules changes. I think the one that pretty much stuck out the most, you can see right here, is that new D tier level. So let me read for you real quick what D tier is meaning in the PDGA. The new D tier is a sanctioning format for a 1-round, 1-day event. Non-members may play in D tiers, and I'm talking about PDGA non-members, by paying the $10 fee that we've been paying when we were playing C tiers has now been moved down to D tiers. D tier events will not count towards the Global Master Series rankings. The sanctioning fee, per player fees, and point factors will all be the same as a C tier. So you do get points for playing in the D tier, just like you do the C tier. Additionally, this new tier solves a problem with flex starts events. Flex starts violate section 1.06 BS current requirement that group, that's what it says. I didn't make that up. Current requirements that groups be random or by rating. New provisions in the CM 1.06B and 1.14C will expressly make the flex start formally legal, but only a D tier and leagues levels. This means flex starts are not permitted at any other tier. So all flex starts will be D tiers, and all league levels will also be a D tier event. So Hemi, you saw it as well as I did. This thing kind of exploded. Before I kind of get to some of the comments that I was able to capture offline, kind of give me your thoughts on what you're thinking about this D tier and how it's going to affect us how it's compared to PDGA and play moving forward.
Okay. Well, first of all, I've watched enough 48 hours mysteries with my wife to know that you just follow the money and it'll tell you the whole story about the D tier. It's all about money. And I don't even have any specific facts about how that's tied in. That's just a speculation. But I do think that the flex start, I've always thought that's a sketchy thing. I love it in terms of how easy it is for you, like that, especially that one day Lone Star played an hour and a half flex around. I love that. That's good stuff. So I don't think it's going to change anything as far as participation, maybe increase it. I know that there are just tons of players out there that are sort of on the PDGA bubble that, you sort of play 4 tournaments and you go, well, I guess it's worth it to be a member or whatever. Or you pay that fee, $10, and you're only going to play a few tournaments. I mean, there's so many different avenues about it. I don't really have a clear idea on it. I haven't studied it enough, or I'm kind of a hands-on person. I'll have to get involved with it and then see how it happens, play a couple or just kind of watch it. I can't speculate, but anyway, go ahead, read.
Well, we did have quite a few quite a few is an understatement, almost about 1,800 comments and replies to this post. But Ryan McCrae stated, adding another tier and requiring active memberships for C tier and higher will have a negative effect on tournaments. It will dilute player sign up and decrease attendance. While Bill Ward said, I only play a few a year, don't do summer tournaments, and don't care about ratings. I liked when I could just pay the $10 fee and play. More than likely, I won't be renewing this year. Now, there's a couple of, opinions. What do you think about it as far as decreasing attendance? I kind of have a hard time agreeing with that statement.
I think that, no, I don't agree with that. I don't think it'll decrease attendance at all. We're on the rise. It's moving. Our main problem is just oversaturation with tournaments and flexes, and that's become a problem. That's a whole different thing. But do I think it'll decrease attendance or membership? No, I don't think so. You might have
that was kind of the same reply I had to the gentleman as well. I said the numbers just aren't showing it, and I do realize that oftentimes you'll get the reply, well, tournaments aren't filling up. And I think that may have more to do with saturation of the market than it has to do with participation, because the PDGA has shown over the year, the first 6 months already, that the tournament play has increased across the United States. So JB Justin Brady said, as someone with a full-time career and kids, we can all understand that, I appreciate one-round flexes to stay sharp and competitive throughout the year when not always available on weekends for bigger events. I like the idea of lower tier for them as well, because 2-round events are more challenging and a test of true skills than a 1-round flex that could also be played with a select group of friends in a more casual atmosphere. This is a natural evolution of the sport becoming more professional, and I like the changes.
Yeah. It seems to me that the D tier should have been introduced as the flex. at the beginning, when it all started. It seemed like it is, like he says, it's a natural evolution. We moved away, calling a one round C tier, calling it or flex start C tier, calling that an official sanctioned round. It was kind of sketchy, and actually, I think I actually got a win out of one of them with nobody in my division. I'm not sure. I'll have to look back at it, but you can, and that goes on your permanent PDGA record. There's a win with nobody in your division, but anyway, yeah, I think it's an evolution. I think the D tier is a good call. I just want to keep an eye on the money. I just want to see. I want to see, and I don't even know. I'm the total, because you run tournaments. What does the PDJ make off of a C tier flex start? What do they make?
They get $3 a player, and at this time you can pay the $10 to play in a C tier. Anything above a C tier, you cannot pay the $10. You must be a PDGA members. So in other words, they would get that $10 plus the additional $3, plus the sanctioning fee of the tournament itself, which is $50. A B tier is $75, and an A tier is $125, I believe, if not more. And then there are minimums that you have to raise in added cash for B and A tiers alike. So C tiers, you don't have to raise added cash, but it sounds like that the PDGA is now going to go towards that being the D tier level. And I think C tier eventually will also have added cash to it. So yes, the PDGA is making money off of it. I think the other concerns that you have, valid as they may be, because I played at different levels, that as well, where I play with a lot more challenged disc golfers who may not know the rules as well. And sometimes tournaments don't always put all the rules out there properly for people to follow as well in guidelines. So during flex starts and events where you're playing with your friends and you don't know the rules, you may play a course or a shot or an OB completely different than somebody else. So there's always the challenges of flex starts. The honesty part of it is finishing out the putt. We can go down the litany of complaints that you have for it. However, that being said, since it's being offered, it is an opportunity, as Justin just said, that it allows him to get out when he can't get out during the weekend. So I think that as disc golf grows, we all know people's jobs aren't coinciding with the same days off, and not everybody has a Saturday, Sunday off, and a lot of jobs, just don't have that ability to do that. And a lot of disc golfers are like that as well. So I can see both sides. There are problems with both sides as well, but I do kind of agree with you. At the end of the day, it seems to be about maybe the money side of it a little bit more. And I'm interested in seeing how much they gain from it as well.
Well, I just got a thought, and that I hadn't thought of before. It's like, how many sports, and maybe there are a lot of them, but maybe not, how many sports developed a professional, quote unquote, organization called the PDGA or whatever your organization is, that took money off of amateurs across the globe every week, multiple weeks. And it's a professional organization, professional disc golf, right? But yet they're getting all this money from all these total amateur people would never play in a professional tournament whatsoever. So maybe, it's genius, it's this massively genius money grab that they're doing. But on the other hand, because it's so known and so out there, it's as far as like everybody knows about the flex start, and everybody kind of looks for them in their area and all this stuff, and it's all under the PDGA umbrella, and so everybody kind of knows about it. So does that grow the sport? Would the sport grow with just local leagues as well as it does with the PDGA kind of its engine running it with the draw being ratings, getting your ratings in it, or world, whatever those points are that people go for? I never really concerned myself with any of those, but So is it genius? Is it a bad thing with the PDGA? I mean, it's the beef that people have with the PDGA is the money thing. It's always the money thing.
Being first to the party, is always is wonderful. It's kind of like Coca-Cola. Wish I'd have known they were going to blow up like they were, and I'd have put my penny stock into them as well. But unfortunately, we did not. PDGA did. They set up a system in which has become wanted not only here in the United States, but looks like it's traveling across the world. They're too going through their growing pains, but less about the money and more about the rules and regulations and who gets to play where and how that all kinds of works out. But it is an interesting subject, interesting topic. I don't begrudge them for making money off of it.
No, not at all. I'm not implying
people
that
have the opportunity not to be in it, but unfortunately, a lot of disc golfers, there are some certain tournaments that they just been playing for years and they're just not going to pass it up, so sometimes they may just pay that fee just to play that one tournament, which is unfortunate but true, or we're just going to lose them. But at the end of the day, the sport's going to grow and it's going to keep growing. So these are just things that are coming with it. We also were fortunate enough to get one of our old co-hosts, Miss Chrissy Fountain, chimed in while she was in reply to this gentleman, Stephen Matthew Hernandez. She said, and Stephen was talking about how he thought that the D tier was going to hurt the hurt play as well. And Chrissy said, how so? I'm generally, and if anyone knows Chrissy, sweet as can be, and she is saying it in a polite manner, I am genuinely interested, as I didn't interpret that it would have too many negative implications on flex starts, but your comment has me worried. And then Steven replied, well, it said that flex starts would be illegal except for in D tiers. At least that's how I understood it. Granted, as far as I understand it, these are just proposed rule changes, which we've talked about as well. So once again, there was that conflict of one saying it's going to hurt it, one not seeing that same conflict moving forward. And once again, I kind of agree with Chrissy. I think that it's going to increase play. D tier will allow maybe the lower levels a better competition as well. And I think it puts leagues where they need to be. I think a D tier is what a league should be. It should not be considered something that's high up there on importance as far as winning. That's for sure, because of the amount of people that you play against, the times that people can play, so forth and so on. But I kind of am agreement there with Chrissy. What are your thoughts with Chrissy on that, Amy?
I agree. What do you think about making some kind of amendment for? Is there a way that a flex start would work at, say, like a tier, where everybody, like a tee time, but you've already signed up for a flex time, so it's basically the same as a tee time, but it's a flex start.
But I think they're saying it has to be random cards. And that's the whole thing there, and which kind of gets away from
the idea of flexing together.
Because flexing allows you to go there with your buddies and all get on one card. And there's where I see a lot of the problems when you have newbies and people who sometimes don't play by the rules, because we know they're out there.
Or, you think of how in like a big city like Houston, or, with a bunch of flexes everywhere. I mean, you could just go in with 3 buddies on a mission to win every single one of them, and just to make money. Because I mean, it's a time of need for people, so these things need to be considered. You need to have safeguards against somebody just coming in and making up their own scores, which we know has probably happened.
I think we already know the answer to that question.
On a regular basis. Anyway, that's a whole.
Well, let's chime in for our ray of sunshine. And then our ray of down in depression. And from one of the best players in the state of Texas, someone extremely well and have competed against a few times, I'm fairly sure, and just a wonderful person as well. Matt Hall says, in the doom and gloom, I have progressively been looking for a reason to quit, and I'm getting closer. I feel like the sport is losing its soul. Get off my lawn, Matt Hall. Oh man, I tell you what, we got a few of the old school people around here, and I don't think I do have something I'm gonna say in a serious note about this. And here's what I'm gonna say. It's always amazed me now where the older group has really gone into, well, it's all about money and people just want to make money and this, that, and the other. Now, and I just want to look in the camera and ask you one question. When you go to work and you do a job, do you do it for free? Do you do it for free? So to me, which I'm hearing from a lot of these players, especially the old ones, who, oh, it's too expensive, it's too much money. And then when I finally get into the nuts and bolts with these people about the cost of it is, their expectation is it still should be done for free, while they would not be willing to do their job for free, nor would they be willing to run a tournament for free, because guess what? They don't run tournaments for free. Didn't run tournaments for free, but participated in them a whole lot and patted a whole lot of people on the back and said, thank you. So just think, if you went to work every day, you spent months, weeks, months. We plan on these events now. You did it for free. So I just want to throw that out there to people who say, oh, it's so expensive and people are in it for the money. You go to work for money. You do your hours for money. If you don't, I have work for you. Please call me, and I got plenty of things I can get you to do. Plenty. Trust me. Got my number. I'm easy to find. So I'm going to leave that at there. So let's get to the ray of sunshine. Someone a little bit younger. Alexander Delaromi. I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, but I think that's how it is. Delaromi. He says, I don't mind the changes. I was thinking the change of only allowing active PDGA members allowed in C tiers would discourage newer players from the sport. But now, with the addition of D tiers, it seems the PDGA is still allowing a newer player who aren't members an opportunity to compete and give the competitive side of the sport a try without forcing them to become a member. Two different views, right?
Mhm.
One understanding an opportunity, another one thinking that's a soulless competition, even though he has multitudes of wins and lots of cash won.
Mhm.
Lots of cash won that those TDs brought in extra money for you to win. But you want to do it for free. Just remember that. So that added cash of $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 that these tournament directors are going out and physically getting for you to play for, that they're not getting any of that money whatsoever. You're going to be upset that they charge you a $5 admin fee and sell you some discs for what you're going to have to buy online. Might want to rethink that judgment. That's just my opinion. Paul Harvey, good day.
I'm a little bit confused. I don't understand what's sucking the soul out of disc golf. I mean, I guess I'm needing some information on that line. It's just kind of like you said, it's just a get off my lawn statement. It has no, and I know he's got some reason behind it. I just don't see it from that comment. So I don't really know what that means actually. I do want to make a point. You mentioned the rule changes, and the thing that stood out to you, and this maybe relates to people feeling like the sport's losing its soul, is that there was no rule about transgender at all. There's no, what's their stance on that? Which I thought, when the new rules came out, I assumed that would be the very first thing they would address, because that's the hot button topic that everybody's talking about. And I think that's the thing that's missing from the whole conversation, is how to deal with that. And maybe I'm just out of the loop and I don't understand how they're dealing with it, but I know it's a huge problem. And
well, they made a rule last year. 2022, that rule was brought up, and it all had to do with, which they're fighting now. And Matt, I wish Matt was on. He could give me a better explanation, because I know it's a word war. It's word gymnastics. It's using the word sex versus using the word gender. And I'm not going to get it backwards here because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to get into it. But I know that's been the litigation reason why this year it has been fought against. But the PDGA last year wrote up a competitive rule for transgender, meaning that you had to have been in hormone therapy and or transition within a certain amount of time before you could play in certain events. However, this year, as you can see, a PDGA tour player has decided to take tournament directors to court for not allowing them to play. Now, anyone who knows a tournament director, we are not built for lawsuits. Okay. Our insurance is covered by the PDGA. Lawsuits personally towards the tournament director and its staff is not. So therein lies the conundrum that they have found themselves in 2023 is because a member of the PDGA pro has decided to, in certain states, fight this rule, and which has allowed them to play in events in certain states. Some states, they're not going to allow you to it. So hence the reason why maybe down here in Texas, no one's trying to come down here and force that issue. But in other states where it may be their litigation may be more favorable, they have brought it to a head. This is why you also saw the Disc Golf Pro Tour decide to cancel those events, more so because of the lawsuits and the litigation that's going on. Not that there aren't other mitigating circumstances. I'm not saying there's one thing, because there's never one thing. We know that as just human beings. You and I have discussed this many, many times. It's a plethora of things, but let's just focus on the main reason. It's lawsuits, and tournament directors cannot afford it. We can't afford to be sued because the PDGA has got a vague rule, and depending on the state's interpretation of that vague rule, they can overrule it and then force you to play them. Well, guess what? You still have to pay all those legal fees, regardless of the outcome. And who's going to help you do that?
And it goes back to money, because
Right.
the
So it goes
PDGA
back to
doesn't
money.
want to back you up, because then they would have to back up every single TD in the world.
So I'm not saying that their rule is perfect, the PDGA, in the way it's stated. I'm fairly sure someone could pull it up, and I could pull it up here in a second myself. But they did make a rule in 2022. Now, you know as well as I do, some people don't like all the rules, and they feel like rules need to be changed in their benefit, their favor, to help them out. And that's kind of where we find ourselves in on that situation. But the PDGA has made their rule. I mean, they have made it steadfast of what they consider, what they will allow. And when you have to start making the transition, then how long it's been, then you've got to show other items as well that I'm not smart enough to speak on right now, but to go look up the rule. It is there for our PDGA consumption if you'd like it on their rules from 2022. So it's a quagmire, and Matt and I talk about it all the time when we talk about planning out our events. You know, it's a way that we word things. When we do our minor league disc golf tour, which is an unsanctioned event, we have wording in there that is specific to deal with this issue as well, based upon our competitive beliefs on the way that we think it should be run. And as the owners of minor league disc golf tour, it's our league. We can run it the way that we choose to run it. If you want to play in it, fine. If you don't want to play in it, fine. But these are the rules and regulations. Kind of like Monopoly. You know, Boardwalk's worth $500. When you go buy Boardwalk, it's going to cost you $500. You don't want to play Monopoly and you don't want to buy Boardwalk, don't buy it. It's kind of like the same thing. You know the rules. So, but on to fun things. We did have a caller or a watcher tonight. John Bowen said, I love the Fling show. Love the topic tonight. He said the PDGA needs to become the ADGA. You know what that means, right?
Yeah.
The Amateur Disc Golf Association. And he thinks the DGPT needs to be the pros only. I've always said I think there needs to be an AM only, but even if there is an AM only, Himmy, you know what's still going to happen. They're still going to be collecting that money.
Yeah.
Somebody's still going to be getting it.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. The whole foundation of PDGA is built on amateurs, but it's professional disc golf. It's kind of I mean, there's a very small percentage of actual professional disc golfers, when you get into the competition side of it, but there's just thousands of amateurs. So it's just a genius move, I think, on the PDGA's part. And, I've got no problems with it. I got no problems with what's going on. I hear a lot of the, comments and people calling for whoever's in charge to be, overthrown or whatever. You hear all that. I'm just a bystander. I'm just watching. I've got nothing. And the things that are in Matt Stillwagon's head, I mean, he could talk about this stuff forever, and I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm just an athlete, old retired-ish kind of athlete creator guy. I have no idea. I'm just watching.
Well, speaking of the athlete and the pro in you, now comes one of the things. There are quite a few rules up for change. We can't go over all of them. We'd be here all night long and bore everybody, but a couple that we wanted to pull out. This is one that interests me, not only as far as I'd like to hear your opinion as far as a pro competitor, but as a tournament director. It's a new pace of play rule that they've now put into effect. And let me see if I got that rule pulled up somewhere. I think I do. It's on top. Here it is. So pace of play reads this way. All competitors shall play without undue delay and make every effort to keep up with the group in front of them. Players and groups are expected to move expeditiously. Well, that's hard for me to say right now. From the competition of one hole to the tee area of the next hole. Any undue delay should not affect the pace of play within the group behind them. Also, while advancing down the fairway, a player group shall not unduly delay play by their actions. However, here are the changes. If a group causes undue delays, which that's kind of an odd way to state that. How you telling me every single person in the group is slow? You're telling me they're all taking over 30 seconds? That's kind of a hard one to say. But if a group causes undue delays, each player may be issued an excessive time violation by a tournament official. If in the sole discretion of a tournament director or the designee, designee, yes,
looks like it.
Yeah. Now I can't see what I was talking about. There it goes. The designee. I lost my spot. There it is. Tournament director designee group is causing delays. It may be put on the. In the sole discretion of the tournament director, the designee, a group is causing delays. They may be put on the clock. This is interesting. On the clock means that a tournament official will accompany the group and actively time their play to ensure that it conforms to Section 60802.03, excessive time. And with this section, end will issue warnings and penalty throws accordingly. The tournament official must notify the group that they are on the clock, and then the tournament official must notify them when they are off of the clock. Wow, is that not a mouthful? So as a player, you're sitting there. Someone's taking 45 seconds to a minute to shoot their shots. You know that the rule is 30 seconds. Now, all of a sudden, you realize you got open grass in front of you, people sitting two groups behind you on the tee box. What are you doing as a pro player? And you're not the person with the slow shooting. What are you doing?
You go after the slow shooter, right? I mean, that's what it's designed to do, is to force the group to be more active in calling players out for taking too long, right? And that kind of what I'm reading into this rule. I mean, as it is now, you can time the guy and you can issue a warning yourself, correct? And have it seconded or whatever for a clock violation or whatever. What's the difference?
That's a warning. Rule? The first one's a warning by the card, and then any subsequent thing is a penalty throw after that. Now I'm gonna say the devil's advocate. I'm not a pro. You are. I have heard from pros who are currently on tour now saying they don't call that, and that they will actually say before they start, they will not call that. Now, if we've already got pros that aren't calling it, because obviously rounds aren't expeditiously as they would like for them to be, therein lies a problem with the group being responsible for that player, which I've always felt like it's tough already, because you kind of got a little bit of this in your last tournament. Sometimes when certain rules are called, it affects the whole card. It affects you as a player, and it puts you in a position to sit there and pay attention to someone else's game rather than being focused on yourself in your game. It's a strange place to be in, and I don't know how to fix it.
Especially if you're not a confident player, because, you know, somebody like a Jay Yeti, or, you know, somebody like that, he warned me before, and I corrected it. You know, the rest of the round I straddle putted. I'm like, okay. He said I was stepping on my mini, and I was like, okay, well, I do that. I get it. So I went to a total straddle the rest of the tournament, but I was not vibed out at all. It actually helped my round, because I feel like sometimes under pressure I put better straddle putting anyway. So in that situation, didn't affect it at all. But I get it. I see what you're saying. It to call somebody out, you know, has a potential of totally throwing your round into a tailspin, or, you know, just a different place. But that's on you. You know, that's like, you should be able to do that, but we're not designed like that as humans. We're not. And or at least we've gotten away from that, but we should be able to say, hey, that's not right, and then not feel some kind of vibe about it. But because of where we're at with our, you know, constant bickering and commenting and, you know, back and forth all the time, it's a great debate time in our lives. So it throws you into a tailspin, but it really shouldn't. And I've seen people like I said, Jay's my best example, you know, where somehow they're able to call people out without vibing the card. You know, there's some kind of confidence power that some people have, where right is right, and it's okay if I say this, because
in a
it's
perfect
right.
world, it'd be great if we had officials for each card. But we realize now, if you're already complaining about the $5 admin fee, you can only imagine what it would cost to have an official for each card for 18 holes to be able to call your round correctly. Now, the other part, you know, so we're not going to have a perfect fix on this, but one thing I did think about, as far as when they said put the tournament director or designee on the card to monitor them, I thought one way we could kind of avoid a past problem where we've seen officials approach a player and or a group and kind of get not the best reply. Sometimes it's a contentious reply. My thought there is that the tournament official or whoever's responsible for that group would just carry a flag, 2 flags. Black flag, you're on. Red flag, you're on time. Gold flag, you're good to go, and you're off of it. That way you don't have any interaction with the official, and so there's no dissent.
Vibe.
All he's just trying to do is just say, you're on the red flag right now, y'all need to pick it up. You know, obviously you should be able to look in front of you, you got open grass, and you got people sitting behind you. Let's pick up the pace, while also maybe understanding, hell, maybe that guy just took an 8. Maybe another guy took a 7, and you had a couple 5s, and then they played poorly the next hole too. So you can kind of get a sense of what's going on with the card, rather than oftentimes what I've always used to say about the window managers inside of a restaurant, who would come out of the office and all of a sudden make an assessment about what's going on in the restaurant that one moment, where they hadn't been there to see what led up to whatever's going on or how we got there. It always kind of bothers me that way, where you make an assumption about something by just making that 1 second approach to it and go, oh, well, they're slow players. Well, look how far back they got. Well, did you take the time to see Did they just shoot between the four of them 32 shots? You got 2 8s and a 7 and a 5. I mean, maybe that's another reason why they're slowing down a little bit, because their play is not so good. So, boy, those are just some tricky situations. But during competitions, what it's going to take. You only have so much daylight.
And I guess, I understand that change or proposed change. You got to somehow police it. Some people are, historically really slow players. Let's talk about the psychology of slow play. Why do you wait a minute and a half to throw a putt? Because you're not confident, because you can't find that zone. You can't find that. You're searching for something, and also you're completely off of your normal rhythm. I've always said that about certain players who are slow players. They putt better in practice than they do in the round because of the routine. It's all about, nobody spends a minute and a half on one putt practicing, but during a round, you just sit there back and forth, waiting for that throw and waiting for that moment, or you feel like you're in the zone. What are you waiting for? What's the wait? Speed it up. Just hurry it along. Don't speed it up, but make it match your practice putt.
Mm-hmm.
And also slow your practice putts down. Don't just get out there and rapid fire unless you're really trying to hone in a new skill, and then you can do that. But when you're leading up to a tournament, slow yourself down to a natural, and then get that tight, because that routine is so important. And when you're off your routine by 30 seconds or even 15 seconds, because you're afraid to throw, well, you're going to throw afraid to throw instead of routine. So, it helps to speed up. And I'm not saying speed up your normal routine. I'm just saying throw your normal routine, your normal practice routine.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and you'll know this because I'm going to bring it back to a sport you and I played where you have to have a routine. 3 bounces, 4 bounces, or 5 bounces?
For me,
yeah,
I was just 2. I was a couple,
2.
and then
I was 3. I was always 1, 2, 3, and then let's go. And it was a routine.
I'd spin it, and then I'd bounce it one more time, and then
I'd 1, 2, 3, spin it. Zoop. Yeah, that was my shot. And
it was funny when I was coaching at the Y. I always told the kids that, like, develop a routine, and and a lot of times
it brings you confidence, though. Just like you said, it builds the confidence, because 1, 2, 3, spin. I'm ready to go. I've done what I needed to do. I've got the ball feeling good in my hands. Usually those bounces, most people don't realize what you're trying to do is put that ball back in your hand solidly, so you've got a good feel of that ball. So when you're doing it, you're not just slapping the ball 1, 2, 3, like pound, pound, pound. You're pushing it to the ground to pull it back up, to push it to the ground to pull it back up, to push it to the ground to pull it back up. And then you've got a good feel of it, just to give it that nice release. And that's what a good free throw routine does. And like you said, get yourself a good putting routine, because it's going to benefit you. Wait a minute and a half, standing there thinking about it. Yeah. The outcome's usually not very good.
Study long, study wrong. And some people,
boys and girls, do not take that advice when it comes to books.
Yeah. Now, I mean, there are tons of people out there who have a longer routine during the round than their practice, and they're really good at it. I'm thinking of Marcus Stevens. He has a really long routine, and he makes it pay off. Back when I was playing with him, I'd wait and wait, and I knew, I was like, okay, this is going to pay off. But sometimes, and it doesn't. So, but I think it definitely is in your favor to really think about your routine and to get a clock out if you have to. But I don't recommend it. I just recommend throwing when you're ready, and don't second guess when you're ready. And that's what the long tournament routine is. It's second guessing. It's a whole, some people, very small minority of people will be really good at it. I think for the most part, it hinders and hurts your putting game for sure. And for that matter, your driving and, everything else, everything needs a tight, simple routine.
Well,
It's
while
not
we
rocket science.
while we still got a few minutes, and I got you here for a few minutes before we all go to bed, we had a couple more rule changes that are out there. Kind of like to get your feelings on them. One has to do with the new scoring. Yeah, he said, I started when we took turns keeping score on paper. Digital usually has 2 or more keeping score. Forcing everyone to keep score digitally seems tricky. Not everyone has the same coverage or even a phone. Who is providing digital devices or a secure connection? Now, they kind of got that one wrong, just so you know. Eldon Butler, he missed a little part of that. The tournament director must supply each person who chooses not to use their phone for scoring a paper scorecard. So that kind of overcomes that, because yes, even here in the old H-Town area, we get outside in Shawshank and out there in the Huntsville area and out there in some of those hills, our reception is terrible and you lose reception out there. So keeping digital scoring is difficult down here as well. But so Eldon, one of the things there is that we must provide you with a scorecard as well. What do you think about the fact that everybody needs to keep score now, Hemi? One of the feedbacks that I saw, and it was, it's just going to take much longer. Now the round's going to take much longer. Everyone's sitting around keeping score. I don't know if that really washes out.
Yeah, that's how it works with cell phones. You stop everything you're doing and you just do that. There's no putting the score in as you walk or as somebody else throws, or it's like that's not a good. I don't like that argument.
I think it could help wrong scores being inputted.
No,
I think I'm keeping your own score now puts the onus on you to make sure that your score is correct.
And think about this: you get up there and there's a 4-man card. And there's always this pressure to be the guy that keeps the score, or there's this guy who doesn't. He's like, no, I don't do score. Whatever.
Hey, quit talking about me, Hemi. You leave me alone.
I usually volunteer just because I like to keep score. I like to keep it. It keeps a rhythm thing for me. So I like the rule. I love it.
And I don't, because I generally cannot see very well. So if anyone's going to input it incorrectly on the phone, it would be me. Writing it down, not so much. But that's the reason why I tend to stay away from it, because I don't wear my glasses when I play. And you already know I can't read anything. John Bowen can attest. I thought a 5 was a 9 the other day. So I can't see. So that's why I don't do it.
I thought about that until I showed you my
your trick. Yeah, that was good.
I was slinging my glasses off, and so I got some fabric tape, and then it works. So I was able to keep my glasses, but before that, because these are new glasses and they don't have, you see that they don't have like the hook. They just basically come right off. And I'm sure you could buy some rubber things or whatever, from some glass store or whatever. But anyway, the point was, I was thinking, why don't I just take them off? For the round. And so that's what you do, huh? You never wear your glasses while you,
because it doesn't help me see far. It only helps me with reading.
Gotcha.
So when I putt, it's even worse. And obviously you've seen my putting. It's not very good anyway. But even when I do have my glasses off, I oftentimes realize I'm not seeing things as well as I should, because of depth and things like that. Although today, guess what? Verified, I hit over 100-footer today, right after I looked at John and said, Chris, you need to hit something long today. And on the whole 10 at Northside Christian today, I hit one from 100 feet. When I let that thing go out of my hand, I was like, that's in. Smash it right on in there. So I can putt a few times.
Yeah, definitely. The main problem you have with putting is the main problem most people have. And that's a putt should be an acceleration every time. Your hand should accelerate. So it's slow to fast. It's just the same thing in stick golf when you're putting. Slow to fast. Yeah. And so a lot of times when you get into a pressure putt, or what I feel like is a tough putt for you, or something that you're really kind of knee knocker or whatever, I feel like sometimes you try to guide it and there's no acceleration.
And I
so-
hit basket.
And that's
And I
why
hit
that's
the
when
basket.
that's when it falls flat. So you know what? I learned that from a really great putter on the old PDGA message board, which was pre-Facebook. And I just posted a question. It was really great. I mean, you weren't around. I don't think you played back then, but
Mm-mm.
it was really cool. It was my first realization that people aren't all nice. It was my first online interchange with people, but also got some great, and this guy's name was Johnny Sias is his name. And he was supposedly one of the greatest putters in disc golf, you know, back in his day. And I posted a question, why does my tournament putt suck compared to my practice putt? And I put so many hours in my putt. I should be seeing some result during the round. That's what he said. He said, you're decelerating. You're probably not quick. He called it a quick releasing, which I've always liked that, because a great putt has a stop to it. You know, it's not all just I'm throwing it and there it goes. It goes pop. You know, it's
Mhm.
that pop. And I think that pop thing is probably what you felt on that 100-footer. And that's how you knew it was in, because it was a feel within your hand and your body and the transferred weight and all that stuff. And you knew it because you popped it.
That last lever, you love to always talk about it. And I've been really working on it, especially with my putts as well. That last lever, right? That last is letting it go. Unlike what you saw with Matt, where he had a relationship issue and he couldn't let that go. And I mean, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen him do, but that was quite funny.
It was funny because it was so unlike Matt. I mean, it was just like, I almost think he did it on purpose because you were filming.
No, I don't think that was it. Hey, what do you think about this next one where Eldon talks about the personal music? I know that you like to wear headphones. It says not everyone wants to talk. Some just want to keep focus. You really only need talk when taking scores. Forcing us to interact by taking our music is some BS.
Okay, not everyone has the same personal music. Not everyone wants to.
Yeah. So what they're saying.
So what
now
are
is
they
that
saying? What's the proposal with the music?
the proposal is that you can listen to music, your own personal music, as long as two things are: one, no one can hear it, right? No one else can hear it, and you can hear someone speaking to you. I kind of see two things with this. One, yes, it's important that someone speaking to you being able to hear, because of the word for, which is always a big concern, right? You not being able to hear, it's kind of like driving. They don't want you to wear earphones and headphones while you drive, because you're not being able to hear the sensory things around you, such as screeching tires, honking horns, things like that, ambulances, sirens, things like that. So I kind of understand that, because oftentimes you can hear other people's music in their ears. I like to hear my music loud as well.
You couldn't hear Hemi by the pine tree going, I've fallen and I can't get up.
No, I didn't hear that whatsoever. I could just see that guy's face over there when he saw me walking that way, and then I saw him look at you, and I could see on his face, that's not supposed to be happening. And that's when I knew something was really not good. But yeah, so I mean, I know that you like to listen to music, but I've never heard your music
I
in your
haven't
ears
lately. For some reason, I guess I'm just in a different place musically. You know, I'm not listening to a lot of music, you know, so not like you. I don't, you know, you used to always have the music.
Now, we haven't
ready,
listened to music
locked and
you and I
loaded.
play. We haven't
No.
played with music in years. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't play, mainly because when I play with Travis and them, they like to typically play like it's more like a more, even when it's casual, they're a little more focused and structured in it. So the people I play with tend to not. So I stopped bringing it as well. And
It's too
it doesn't
hot.
bother me.
It's too hot for the headphones anyway. I like the earbuds for some reason. It's easier. Not the earbuds, but the ones with the wire on it. Dangly
Right.
one. For some reason, I just like the comfort of it just being plugged in. That's another reason I always keep score, because I usually have my phone in my pocket.
Right.
But no, I don't do the headphones anymore. Maybe it'll come back around. Maybe Radiohead puts out a new album or something. That's
We'll see.
funny thing is that's what I was listening to is one album pretty much, because it was In Rainbows, and then there's a part 2 to In Rainbows, and I'd listen to those two, and something about the rhythm, when I was competing and I was playing well, that's what I was listening to.
So what do you
But-
think about this last thing that Eldon had to say? He said, now they're also talking about what you can and can't wear. Now, obviously he's shortened this. He said, offensive logos, define offensive. Beer, weed. Then why does the PDGA allow these types of companies to sponsor players if it's isn't greed for their money and not to promote the sponsors? Laugh out loud. I kind of see where he's going with that,
yeah.
but I do kind of see where what they're really talking about, the PDGA new rule change, is tattered shirts, tattered shorts, right? They don't want you wearing cutoffs. They don't want you wearing t-shirts. You can wear a collared shirt. It can be logoed, and believe it or not, collared shirt logoed, but you can still have the sleeves cut off, Tim Egan, if you want.
Oh,
But
really?
they are kind of,
Is that the Tim Egan rule?
well, Tim, every shirt he has, he cuts off the
Oh,
arms.
no, but
It
is that what
just-
they call it?
Yeah, it must be, because he just loves to do that. But you can still have your sleeves cut off, but you cannot, they're really more like, they want to look appropriate. And this is during tournament play, right? So I kind of get it. They're trying to take disc golf away from, what it used to be years and years ago for just a casual player. And when they play in an event, they want you to take it respectfully. Once again, it's a rule. If you don't like it, you don't have to play. But guess what? The PGA doesn't allow you to wear shorts.
Mhm.
All players must wear pants. Doesn't matter if it's 110 degrees or not. You got to wear pants,
Mhm.
right?
Because it looks good.
But the caddies get to wear shorts
Yeah.
because they're
That's
carrying
odd.
those heavy ass bags too. So I kind of get it, right? They're the ones carrying all the weight. You're just swinging the club. But all rules are made for a reason, and they're just trying to sharpen up the game. And I don't really have a problem with that. It is what it is. You want to play casual, you want
I
to play in
mean,
your
that-
underwear and a
it's-
wife beater, knock yourself out.
That's a good point Eldon makes about, who defines it, offensiveness. That's the whole thing there. He's picking fights just left and right. It's like, I don't, I don't get much out of that. I do agree that, there's, you have a dress code. Who makes the dress code? Who defines what's offensive? Offensive logo. That's, that could be Adidas to some people. It could be Bud Light. Some people might get offended that I wear a Bud Light hat because they think I'm, into the whole transgender issue, whatever. But could be that that's the only hat I had that day. But you have to have guidelines for a professional sport. No matter what they are, you got to throw it out there.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think it's good. And so you said that you, at a sanctioned term, you have to have a collared shirt.
Yep.
I thought
Collar
they
shirt, no
did
more
away with-
t-shirts.
I thought they did away with, like, you could have like sports shirt, right? Like,
Right. Now you can have the athletic fit, the dry fit, and all that kind of stuff.
and that's not collared.
Right.
Okay, so it's not collared. It's just
No, they're preferring collared shirts, but at least that's the way I read it. Maybe somebody else reads it a little bit differently than that, but that's the way I read it. I have to read it again. It kind of got a little long-winded after. I think there were like 14 or 15 different changes.
yeah.
Along with there's changes on backing out of a tournament, 48 hours, how much you get paid versus what you do get, players packs, yada yada yada. So there's a bunch of other nuanced rules that are out there, and we'll get into them on another day. But these are just some of the ones that I thought were more prevalent, especially starting with the D tier level.
Yeah.
Because I definitely think that puts those leagues back in kind of spot they deserve. And it kind of bothers me a little bit though that you still get points for it, because just like you said, sometimes you can win a division by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Is that really a win? You
No.
know? So
Yeah, that's interesting. But hey, I wanted to backtrack and just say, first of all hail PDGA. I love the PDGA. I'm not dissing them in any way when I talk about the money. I just when I personally want to go study the issues, I'll start with the money, and I'll try to figure it out from there. That's always the question mark when big changes happen. It's like, okay, who stands to make some money here?
Or whose money's being affected without these changes being made, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's like somebody's affecting somebody's money. So they're trying to get this thing straight. But
yeah,
in today's world, Hemi, as as well as I do, you're not going to satisfy and solve everybody. The internet is a open door for anyone and everyone's opinion.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are contrite just to be contrite, and others are really trying to be helpful to be helpful. You just kind of have to sift through it. But at the end of the day, I mean, we played this game because we love it. I enjoy it. I enjoy the fellowship. I enjoy the people I've met, and I enjoy running events. I like smiles on people. I like giving away plastic. I like giving away money. I like people hitting ace pots. I like watching people almost make aces, and I love watching people hit trees. It's just, there's so much to enjoy about it, right? And most of all,
that's how we met. Actually, that's how we met. I probably hit an ace that you set up at Spring Valley from the food cart or food.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Truck.
And I still got that disc. I got the disc that you signed because I got them all. You, AP,
Marcus probably had a bunch of them.
Matt hit one. Alex hit one.
Yeah.
There were like 7 or 8 of them that I have, and I still had those discs, all of them signed as well. But that was kind of fun because once again, that introduced me to a lot of you guys as well. And we just named probably 5 of the best disc golfers in our area as well. I mean, those are some talented players. Obviously, they had an ace too, been hurt.
Just so everybody knows what that is. Chris was a chef, an excellent burger chef. When I was eating burgers, that was the best burger in town. And he set up this ace run, and you put your money in, and you throw 5 shots, I think, for $5.
It's what you bought. It was $1 shot.
5 for 5, or just whatever, however many.
Yeah, how much you ever shot, and you do as many times as you wanted. But we always kind of seeded the pot at the beginning.
I think that's how we met. I think that's pretty
that, and I think the music. I think
music.
You came up to me when I was cooking. You're like, man, I really like the music you're playing. Has a lot to do with our age.
And
right?
it was like a lot of times deeper or more music nerdy than I am. And Chris will go, "Who's this?" And I'm like, I have no idea. Sometimes I guess
that's because you're a maker of music and I'm a listener of music. There's 2 different things. You make music. I listen.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Do you keep a journal?
No.
Do you keep a journal of your tournaments that you run? Or okay.
Well, I mean, other than the fact that they're already out there, right? So anything that I pull my name up, I get a list of. So I do.
That's why you don't make a list of your own. That's what I say. I was just watching Mace Man's podcast earlier, and they had Levon Wolf, I think his name, and Andy knows who he is. He's like a really, foundational disc golfer. But he said he has there's a whole. Mace was talking about. There's a whole period where you weren't in the PDGA, and what were you doing there? Was it kids? And he's like, no, I was playing. They just lost the records, and so you look up these old guys. There's like huge swaths of unrecorded tournament play. Did you know that? I didn't know.
I didn't. And you pay for that too, right? Don't we pay for that?
Yeah, and the first time I'd ever heard of it, there was periods where somehow it didn't get inputted or whatever. And this was like one of the foundational players of the sport, but the funny thing, the thing that made me think of it was, he goes, no, but I have it all journaled. He goes, I keep notes on everything, and that fascinates me because you hear these gurus talking about journal, do journals, that'll help you. I'm like, I'm so bad at journaling, and I was so bad at taking notes in school that I got to the point where I just doodled and didn't. If I had a cell phone, I'd just been recording,
Mhm.
back or taking pictures of the dry erase board or whatever. But to journal, and I do journal. I have all these journals and that I'll never read, and I guess there's a purpose for it, I mean, but I thought
Yeah,
it was
mine, I guess, would be
fascinating.
my journals are my concert tickets. I always tell people I've been to like 600 shows, and I have about every single ticket of those
Mhm.
shows that I went to. Because I've always told you always hear people, I went to this show. It's like, well, do you have your ticket still? Here's mine right here. Here's Prince, in 1982. Here's Diana Ross in 1978. Here's Willie Nelson in 1979. There's those things that that's kind of like, I guess that's how I would say I would journal my music love, is the fact that I can provide, yeah, I was standing right there. This is the seat I was in, or this is where it's standing room only, this is the venue, this was the year. I guess that's the way I do it.
Yeah, it triggers memories, and that's what Levon was talking about. He said, one of his favorite tournaments was one that he didn't win, and he went into this final round with a 10-stroke lead and ended up not winning. And the reason he didn't is because he started cramping up. So anyway, he looked at that as a fond memory. I didn't listen to the rest of it, but it triggers memories, and I guess that's the whole point of it. But for me, it's like it's hard for me to go back and look at notes. It's like maybe it's that confidence thing or something where I'm just like judging myself. It's like,
Well, you have it in music too. I
How are
mean,
you
to
saying?
me,
Yeah.
your notes would be your lyrical
Oh
content,
yeah.
because it
Yeah.
would
My
tell you
notes
what
for
you're going through
sure.
at that time in that year when you were writing it,
Yeah,
things
that's
like
for
that.
sure.
And even if it's not lyrics, the music itself and the mood of that music can often tell maybe your mood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if it
Yeah.
has no words. I know you have so much music that have no lyrics to it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know. So
Yeah.
that's kind of another way I would say that you probably kept a lot of your journal is
Journal.
through
Yeah.
your
That's
musical
true.
and your art
If
and your
every
art as well. Although you've given so much of your art away, right? You probably given 90%,
yeah.
95% of your art away, would you not say? Or sold?
Right. Yeah, I don't have a lot of art that's mine around here, but that's true. It's a good way. Journaling is it doesn't have to be words for
Nope.
sure. It's a good point.
Can be the things that you do. I've always said it's more about what you do than what you say, right? So in
Yeah.
those instances with your music and your art, those are two things. Now, if we could also journal how many times you've repainted your kitchen.
4. Every room in the house, 4. But
I
that's
wish
just
I had that
because it's
motivation. I
innate.
just don't.
Well, it's motivation, but it's just something I do,
You're
and
good
it's
at it.
not a problem for me to paint a room. Like a lot of people, it's a big deal,
Well, because it takes you seconds to get it out and get it prepped. To the rest of us, the prep time and getting it ready is the majority of what it takes. And we're all like, oh my
100%.
God. And you're over there going, tape, 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 tape. No problem. And it's perfect. We're over there going, oh, I got a line in the middle of the wall. How'd that happen? Why I have this crease over here? You're over there. No, you got to, yeah. You take for granted the talent that it really takes to do it right. A lot of people put paint on a wall,
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're doing it correctly.
Well, I've been doing that a long time. I have definitely developed painter muscles.
Well, you think you're gonna be able to get out and throw anytime soon? What are you thinking? How you feeling?
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna wait
Okay.
till it cools off and into the upper 90s, and because it was
That's what-
110, it was 109 when I got in the car yesterday leaving Spring Valley.
Yeah, that's why John and I teed off about 8:30 this morning, and we were done before the heat. We were able to play those open holes at Northside early, so like 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, but it was all still shaded.
Okay.
Right. So really all we got was 18 and 1 where you were in the sun, but I have an umbrella. and then you went back in the woods and then back in the woods again. So we got really lucky. It wasn't as hot for us, but you got to get out there early. You know, that's the whole thing. That's the whole key.
Yeah. Hey, I was watching that throw. That was a freebie haircut.
Check out this one though. Mayo.
Oh, that
just,
Mayo.
and I got it slowed down. And right here in a second, you'll see the arrow. Bam. Just wow. When you almost hit that too.
Yeah.
If your back wasn't right there in front of me.
Same one. No, I was commenting on the ponytail. I was like, that was a one cut haircut. I put my hair in a ponytail and I cut it myself.
Oh, did you?
Like 6 inches off.
And you almost aced this one too. I mean, it's so close. Yep, right there.
I
Man, that went right by.
I definitely need to go and take out all the drivers and just have a Frio and a Lariat and then mid ranges and putters and see how it goes, because I need to throw that Frio more. That thing is money.
You cannot not throw that curl.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just talking about, I guess curl, that'd be fine, but I need to throw those fairway drivers more, you know.
You got great control. I mean, when I see a lariat in your hand, I'm like, oh, that's going to be close. If I see a lariat get in your hand, I'm like, that's going to be close, no matter what you're throwing at.
Yeah, that's a good disc.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, cool.
All right.
This one went longer than I thought, but it was a lot to cover with that thing, and I have a feeling we'll be back around on rules stuff.
For sure.
As I look into it, and just hoping for some kind of definitive thing on the rule that they didn't do anything about with, which is the whole gender
Right.
issue. That one is a biggie, and
It's a big thing for us as
not-
tournament directors. It
Yeah.
scares the living. I mean, it's scaring all tournament directors. I mean, obviously the states are into, it's not as much. Texas isn't so bad, but still, I mean, at any time, we're always in that quagmire of thinking, can we be brought up on suit? Can someone, sue us? And it's
Mhm.
and it's unfortunate because the time we give, people have no earthly idea. I mean, we're already planning next year, right? To us, this year is already over, even though we still have 6 more events to go, plus 3 more minor league disc golf events. I mean, we're already ready for next year. But in next year's planning, what you just said is part of our discussion.
For sure.
And we're having to
100%.
be mindful of it
Right.
and to see what's going to happen. Because there's, like, if I'm not mistaken, there's 4 or 5 lawsuits out there still pending. And so it's going to be very interesting the closeout of 2023, how that goes. So I feel for any tournament director that's in some states that are, not backing what the PDGA said, not backing what the DGPT said, and going with, their interpretations of what they believe to be fair versus the interpretations of the people who made the rules,
Yeah, it's a shame.
Because I don't think if you read it, it's not made with malice. At no point in anything that the PDGA said, it was not in malice. It was pure competition. And like I said to you, I think a couple weeks ago, stop talking to me like I'm a white male and start talking to me like I'm a competitor. Someone who's been competing in sports since the age of 9 and who's competed in multitudes of sports at different types of levels. So talk to us as competitors, not as individuals, not as what you see, but just somebody who has a desire to compete in fairness, and that's all this is about. So anyone who's a true competitor only wants the playing field to be fair for everybody. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah, and
nothing more, nothing less. Just
100%.
be fair. But it doesn't have to do with your emotions. It has to do with your abilities, right? It's not your feelings that I'm concerned about during competition. It's about your abilities during competition. That's all. That's it. Nothing else. I don't want to see some 6'7", 330-pound offensive tackle going against some 110-pound 17-year-old kid. I don't want to see that. We know competitively that's not a fair matchup. Okay. And I'm not talking about disc golf. I'm just talking about in strength. That's just not fair. you're gonna be that big, you need to compete against people that big and that strong. If you're that small, you need to compete against people that small and that size, and we're talking
Yeah.
about strength or speed or anything else, right? That's all. Not talking about anything other than can you get from point A to point B, and how far does it take you to get there, and how long does it take you to get there? How much effort, is required. That's all. Pretty
Yeah.
simple.
No, it's a simple issue made complicated by litigation and by the intention of one athlete and possibly others in other sports to go at the governing bodies with lawsuits, which is, that to me, that's the most heartbreaking part of it. But, I just want to say, put it out there. Hey, everybody's got their thing. And we all need to be, I guess you can say the right thing without being hateful. And we all know, a good majority of us know what the right thing is in this situation. And it's for males to play with males and vice females.
Ability to play with ability. Amen to that.
And that's just the way it is. And I'm not condemning her for making a choice to change her gender or whatever. I'm not making that. I'm not saying you can't do that or whatever, but it just seems logical, like everybody says, get your own division and problem solved.
Yep.
But
they don't really see they're taking away.
Mm-hmm.
They're not including themselves. They're basically excluding a group that's been fighting since you and I have been kids and even longer to be included and to have the opportunity to participate in their own division. The ladies have been fighting for centuries to be able just to participate. That's all. Right. So don't step in from someone else's fight for 2 centuries to participate and think you're just going to step in and participate with them. Take your 2 centuries, fight for your 200 years, get your own group out there and do it. It's not going to take that long, but just understand the opportunity is there for you to do that. You just need to take it. And while your participation numbers may be low at the beginning, Hemi, first time you ever saw ladies competing, were there hundreds of them?
No, 2 or 1.
Exactly. There were only 1, 2, 4.
Right.
It took us years to work up to get to 30.
Yeah.
It took us even longer to get to 40.
Well,
so
think about if you did have your own division as a transgender, think about how many wins you'd rack up. I mean, you'd be the winningest player on tour. And the other thing too is like, what? I guess because you feel like you're a woman, you want to compete with women. I guess I'm trying to wrap my brain around why somebody would not want their own transgender division as opposed to playing in the sex that you were not, but then you became, medically, whatever. I'm trying to wrap my brain around the whole thing, and it's not easy. There's not an easy way to just sort of come out, and that's why these little short comments, hateful comments, a lot of times, or just aha moments where you go, okay, here it is, here's the answer, but it's the tone that needs, and it's the same with all internet stuff. It's the tone that needs to change. There needs to be some kind of kindness. You can be able to, kind of like we were talking about earlier about calling people out on rules, whatever. Your tone is everything. Or walking up to a group in front and say, hey, you mind play through or whatever, it's your tone. It's the same thing with the way we deal with this issue. I'll be the first to say it breaks my heart that person's going after the PDGA or whoever, the director, tournament director, whoever is going to be, in the shits for because they ran a disc golf tournament,
by the
that's
rules and
heartbreaking.
regulations that are set forth by the PDGA. We're only running the rules in which are set forth by them. So we have to enforce them. And they're saying, well, we're going to sue you for enforcing them. And it's like, wow, that's kind of but to pivot real quick, we had Eric Petro. He chimed in a little bit. He said, learning how to cut in edges changed my life when painting a room.
So how do you do that, Eric? I watch the guys. Like I said, I've painted forever, my whole life. But I've also worked with paint crews, guys that are actually professional painters, and I'll be doing my own little accent wall or whatever, and there'll be a crew of guys, and I watch how they do it, and it's pretty genius. I like to use an angle brush, a 3-inch cutting brush like that, just because that's what I'm used to. That's what when I do oil paintings or acrylics, I use the same exact brush, but in miniature. It's got a nice wedge to it, and so you can get little tight corners and all that. But the guys that are the pros, they use a 3-inch flat brush across the top. And so what it does, it allows them, and this is for cutting in, all the top around the ceiling or wall, corners or whatever, around doors or whatever. What they'll do is they'll take that flat 3 inches and they'll put a glob underneath the line, and they'll glob that line all the way down to where they're basically just putting paint onto the wall. They're not trying to create the line. They're just putting it up there. And then they'll go back and forth and they'll slide that. And they're so lightning fast with it. It always made me think maybe I should do a flat brush like that. But I'm pretty fast. I think I could keep up with them. But I'd be interested to see how Eric, how he learned to cut in the edges. But yeah, that's the key. Cut the edges first. Do all the edges first. Everything first. And then overlap it with your roller, and that'll create this really clean paint job. There you go.
Bob Ross, painting 101 from the Fling
Right.
show. We just flung it, dude. Flung it sideways over there.
That's right. It's off the rails. We're approaching an hour and a half tonight.
Yeah. Well,
good,
we
though.
got
It's always
to
good.
now because we got to end it with it's always with Mikey rolling. But until then, y'all go play some disc golf, throw something in the air, and fling it, dude. Isn't that how you said it?
Just fling it, bro.
Fling it, bro. All right.
Just fling
And as you see, there's Mikey. Everybody, y'all have a good night. We'll see y'all next week. Peace. Good night,
Peace.
Hemi.
All right. Good night, Chris. Thanks for all the work.
You bet.